rear. It's really not worth listening to. I wouldn't bother. I wouldn't waste my time. They did follow my mix of Ringos with a little help from my friend, because when I got into the master tapes, or the multi-track tapes is more correct, I saw that the vocals that are just stuck in one corner on the stupid record or on the stereo mix, the vocals of John, Paul, and George are actually two stereo recordings of the three of them. So first, the three of them recorded a stereo. What do you see when you turn out the light? They recorded that, the three of them. And then, the second time around, on a different take, I can't tell you, but I know. Oh, no, that's Ringo's line. That's Ringo's. We'll clip that. You won't hear this part in the final product. Well, whatever another background line sung by the background, it was recorded in a second take in stereo. So there's two stereo recordings of John, George, and Paul singing the background vocals. Well, you know what you do with that. If you're the mixing engineer for the surround sound, you line them up on the back channels, left to right, or right to left. And that way, you have Ringo in front singing in my B&W center channel with the little, looks like a microphone sticking out of it. And in the rear, out of my JBL rear speakers, I hear John, George, and Paul, and John, George, and Paul, and they are spread across the whole rear picture. Well, I put that out in about 2015. I didn't give it to anybody. I gave it to a few people, but I put one of those, and I'm pretty sure I was the first person to do that, but they did catch that, and I think they might have copied it, and that's exactly what they did on the version that came out in 2017. It does not sound as good as mine. They did not do it absolutely correctly. They just put one in one channel in mono, one in another channel in mono, which sounds horrible. You had to do a lot more work and put a stereo picture of both, and they didn't do that. So let's get on to the rest of it. The point is, the entire album is basically listening to Sgt. Pepper on two very good, very big speakers in front of you. That's what they did, which of course doesn't help. Your stereo can only sound as good as your stereo sounds. Doesn't matter how good a speaker they put it out on in the recording studio, it's still going to be limited by what you can do in your home with your system. But anyway, so that's what they did. They got some great speakers. They're actually my favorite speakers, I got to tell you. I heard them once in a store, and I said, boy, those are nice. They're B&Ws, but the problem is they're around $19,000, and I hope that's a pair, but I'm not even sure that it is. So they put it out on those in one of their sound rooms, and then hooked up some very expensive microphones in the back of the room and just recorded the album that way. And later, Giles got to mix in a little extra, maybe a guitar part or something in the rear channel. But basically, the rear channels are the red-haired stepchild. They do nothing. So, let's move on. That's what you get. Well, all right. What can we compare it to? What can we compare it to? Well, I don't know. I got in a unnoted package from the EU. I got Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, DTS, the Beatles, on Voo-Doo Records. Voo-Doo Records. That's all right. Now, one thing before I get too far and forget, when you're looking online and reading reviews, Voo-Doo on my disc is spelled VOO-DOO, but many people online write it Voodoo, no space, no dash, okay? So if you're going to do a search, have your search engine look for it that way. Now, it looks exactly like Sgt. Pepper. It has the same cover, except it has a very beautiful digital DTS surround on the front on the top right. And it looks very nice. And it's also, there's a DTS. It has the same cover on the back, I believe, except I'm looking and I don't remember seeing them in that position. So I'm going to have to check. But in the back, it just shows the four Beatles sitting in their Sgt. Pepper costumes, kind of leaning together. All right, everybody get in the picture, come on. Ringo's got a look on his face like, oh, this is a waste of time. John has same look. Paul is like, oh, God, this is dumb. And George is just sticking his head in saying, I have got to get out of here. I'm going to go somewhere where they treat me like a guitar player, where I don't have to sit here all day and have Paul tell me what to play. So that's what's on the back. But I guess what we really care about is, well, what's in the music? We're not there yet. We first have to discuss, well, what is DTS? DTS, a firm out in Calabasas, California, is a competitor to Dolby, and it's just another form of sound made for your multi-channel sound systems. So many times when you buy a disc, you have your choice of either listening through it through Dolby Digital, which is the Gorilla, and then you also have a chance, well, let me hear it on DTS. The truth is DTS has capacity to sound better, but Dolby has done a great job of using tape and staples and finding ways to make their less information down the pipeline sound really, really good and almost as good as DTS, despite Dolby having a roughly 640 limit and the DTS can go up to 1.5 MBS. So technically, DTS should have the ability to kill in sound quality Dolby, but because of Dolby's far more money, engineers, research, backing by Sony, commitment by many artists to allow their music to be played in Dolby, Dolby has the chance to, Dolby has used their scientific know-how to make their recordings sound almost as good as DTS. Neither sound as good as a CD, because both formats are lossless, as is CD. And what that means is that when the recording studio records the performance, it's just too much information for that little CD to put out in 5 channels. Here, the CD doesn't put out that much information that fast. So what you've got instead is cut back, high ends missing, low ends missing, this is missing, that is missing. They have just a system that keeps chopping off musical information to where they can fit it onto a DVD, and in this case, this rare, a CD. So they're using a format that's made for DVDs, and they're making CDs, although most of them are 800 megabyte, which is another story we'll get into, not today. And you would see that they have really packed it to the gills. There's no more information that they could squeeze out of it. But with that, you are getting Sgt. Pepper in 5.1 only surround. There's no Dolby Atmos or anything like that. And, of course, there wouldn't be, because it's in 5.1 DTS, and DTS is a competitor to Dolby. So they would not work together like that. But the DTS on this one is, in a word, very, very, very good. That's 4 words. Let's go forward. And the sound quality, although slightly thin, very bright, is comparable to Giles Martin's version. Well, how could that be? Well, a couple reasons. The recordings back in the 60s could be good, but they weren't that good. They weren't, unless you were recording the 1812 Overture, you really didn't need 120 decibels of headroom. So the limited ability of DTS to reproduce music in 5.1 channels, it puts out a real good, fun-sounding version of Sgt. Pepper. But the crux of the matter, it took us, let's see, I don't know, about 20 minutes to get here, but 25 minutes. The crux of the matter is it sounds absolutely great. It will knock you off your socks. Yes, it is worth going all over the internet to find it, which I had to do. It's not anywhere you would expect to find it. I think I saw it on Etsy, but Etsy has done a very good job of cleaning them out. They're definitely not on eBay anymore. They were, but now they're gone. And that is, of course, because they are bootlegs. They're not real. Doesn't matter how high quality they are. The money from them does not go to Apple Records, EMI, and that means Paul, Ringo, The Yoke, and Olivia. So that's where the money's supposed to go. But it doesn't. But the question is, how in the world did these guys do it? How? It's impossible what they've done. And when I say that, what I mean is they have taken voices, like mine's going, they've taken voices that on the record are in one channel. Let's say there's 3 guys singing in one channel. And they've got all 3 of them in different channels. So you might have heard the Moody Blues records where they have them singing one Moody Blue out of each speaker, 4 Moody Blues. They do that, as you probably know, on the Let It Be album, on Maggie May, I think it is. Well, the whole album is that way. The whole album, Sgt. Pepper, has 5.1 speakers, not much coming out of the subwoofer, but it has 5 speakers, and they put anything they want anywhere, and they have found tapes where they are more discreet than what Giles had. So they are able to, let's say, put a piano in the rear right channel and a harpsichord in the rear left channel and Paul McCartney in the front channel, center channel, I mean by that, center channel. And then Paul and John in the left rear channel. Now, Giles did not do anything like that. So there seems to be almost no limit as to where Giles, well, it's not Giles. There's no limit to where whoever did the mixing in this one, and there's no name listed, what a shame, can put the instruments. Now, I know this recording very well, and I know the multi-tracks for it very well. A lot of us Beatles fans have the 4 channels, the final 4. And they tried to convince us, well, that's all there is. See, here's the 4 channels that the Beatles made. They made 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that's how they made Sgt. Pepper, from these 4 channels. Bull pucky, that's not how... No, the engineers at EMI were much smarter than that. What they did was they had 1 4-track over there that they put songs on, and they would put the basic track. All right, John, Paul, George, Ringo, just give me some music now so we know what the song's going to sound like. And they'd play the basic track, no vocals, or maybe a guide vocal. That's where somebody's just singing to let the band know how the song is going to go, but it's not being recorded for use on the record or